July 2, 1944, near Cherbourg, France. From the mouth of an underground hospital carved into chalk and rock, a woman stepped into the daylight for the first time in days. Her white medical coat hung loose on her shoulders. Her hands were raised, not in fear, but in certainty. She squinted against the sun and spoke quietly to the nurses behind her. The Americans could not possibly have what they claimed. This was propaganda, a lie meant to break morale. She was wrong. Behind her came 8 more German army nurses, among the first captured by American forces during the Normandy campaign. They had spent their final nights treating wounded Wehrmacht soldiers by candlelight, rationing their last vials of morphine, boiling bandages again and again for reuse. Their work resembled medieval surgery more than modern medicine. Within hours, they would encounter a medical system so abundant, so precise, and so methodical that it would fracture not only their professional assumptions, but the ideological foundation they had been trained to defend. Colonel Richard P. Johnson, commanding the 45th Evacuation Hospital at La Haye-du-Puits, studied them without hostility. Enemy medical personnel, yet fellow healers. Under Geneva Convention protocols, they would be exchanged and returned to German lines within days. 16 nurses in total, exchanged on July 2nd and July 9th. But first, they would witness American medicine in 1944. The shock they experienced had not begun in France. It had begun more than a year earlier, in North Africa. May 13, 1943. Tunisia. Under a relentless sun, General Hans-Jürgen von Arnim surrendered not only combat troops, but an entire medical system. Between 250,000 and 275,000 Axis personnel laid down their arms. Among them were thousands of doctors, orderlies, and German Red Cross nurses who had followed Rommel's Afrika Korps through 2 years of desert war. Among the captured was DRK Schwester Ilse Schultz, awarded the Iron Cross Second Class in April 1943. One of fewer than 20 women to receive the decoration during the war. Her colleague, DRK Schwester Greta Falk, also decorated that month, kept meticulous notes later recovered from German military archives. The Americans throw away more medical supplies in a day than we received in a month. They have medicines we have only heard about. The surrender overwhelmed German belief in scarcity as destiny. Medical personnel from elite formations, the 21st Panzer Division, the 15th Panzer Division, the 90th Light Division, were processed with mechanical efficiency. At collection points near Tunis, American medical officers sorted captured personnel within hours. Those required to treat German wounded were retained. Others were evacuated. Every nurse received a medical examination using equipment that had become rare luxuries in German service. By June 1943, the first groups boarded Liberty ships bound for the United States. The ships themselves were evidence. Mass-produced, standardized, replaceable. German propaganda had dismissed American industry as shallow and weak. Yet these vessels crossed the Atlantic in numbers. Germany could not disrupt. Their onboard medical facilities exceeded anything German nurses had seen at home. Operating theaters with stable electric lighting. Functional X-ray machines. Refrigerated medicine storage. Most striking was blood plasma. Properly typed, preserved, and stored for safe administration. German forces still relied on direct transfusions in field conditions, risking fatal reactions. On these ships, plasma was treated as an industrial product, manufactured, cataloged, transported, and applied with statistical confidence. The crossing itself became a daily education in abundance. Sulfur powder, rationed by the grain in German hospitals, was used freely. Bandages were discarded after a single use. Food was uneaten and thrown away. Waste that would have been unthinkable under the Wehrmacht system. The ships docked at Norfolk, at New York, at ports whose scale contradicted everything the nurses had been taught. At Norfolk Naval Base, medical processing included dental work, infection treatment, and corrective lenses, care exceeding that available to German civilians. The rail journey inland revealed more. City after city, illuminated hospitals, Richmond's Medical College of Virginia, Philadelphia's massive hospital complexes. Every urban center possessed facilities surpassing those of major German cities. At a stop in Washington, American Red Cross volunteers boarded the train. They distributed toiletries, cigarettes, chocolate, writing materials. Enemy prisoners receiving kindness without transaction. Faith cannot armor steel, and ideology cannot replace supply. Camp Opelika, Alabama, opened in September 1942 and received its first Africa Corps medical personnel in June 1943. Its hospital became an anomaly. German medical staff, trained in Nazi racial doctrine, working alongside Americans practicing clinical medicine. Dual staffing followed Geneva Convention requirements. American officers supervised. German personnel provided direct patient care. The facilities stunned them. Adjustable surgical lights. Rapid sterilization autoclaves. Electric cauterization. Pharmacies holding hundreds of medications in climate-controlled storage. Expiration dates measured in years. On July 21, 1944, Glennon General Hospital in Okmulgee, Oklahoma became German prisoner of war General Hospital No. 1. 1,690 beds. Parallel American and German teams. Colonel Henry W. Misch implemented. Something inconceivable in Nazi medicine. Integrated teams sharing knowledge across enemy lines. The greatest challenge to German ideology did not come from machines. It came from people. African American nurses were assigned to prisoner wards, a consequence of American segregation that barred them from treating white American soldiers. German nurses, indoctrinated in racial hierarchy, now observed black professionals delivering precise, compassionate, technically superior care. The contradiction was absolute. Nothing demonstrated American medical dominance more clearly than penicillin. In 1943, the United States produced 21 billion units. By 1945, production reached 6.8 trillion units. German nurses who had worked without effective antibiotics watched infections disappear within days. Limbs that would have been amputated were saved. What German surgeons accepted as inevitability, Americans treated as inefficiency. At Camp Forest, Tennessee, the pattern repeated. American doctors, many civilians in uniform, shared knowledge openly. No secrecy, no hierarchy enforced through fear. The blood plasma system revealed another gulf. At facilities such as the 21st General Hospital at Rennes, plasma was stored for months, transported thousands of miles, and administered without blood typing at the point of care. Germany had not achieved this capability. German nursing education under the National Socialist system taught that medicine served racial improvement. Weak patients were liabilities. Treatment was conditional. In American hospitals, German prisoners received the same care as Allied soldiers. Scarce medications were not withheld. Procedures were not rationed by nationality. Medicine was not a tool of ideology. It was a system of healing. Christmas 1943 deepened the fracture. 500,000 packages were sent to German prisoners. Coffee, chocolate, soap, cigarettes. At Camp Alva, Oklahoma, local churches sang German carols. Boy Scouts delivered handmade cards. Families with sons fighting in Europe sent homemade treats. The feast exceeded anything German forces had seen in years. Enemies showing charity while propaganda preached hatred. By 1944, American authorities implemented education programs. German nurses attended lectures at institutions such as the University of Nebraska Medical School. Topics included medical ethics, patient rights, and scientific methodology. Questions were encouraged. Debate was permitted. Access to American medical literature revealed another truth. Many German medical advances had been pioneered by Jewish scientists expelled under Nazi law. The war moved on. In July 31, 1945, at the 45th General Hospital in Bari, Italy, German nurses treated patients of all nationalities under American supervision. Allied soldiers, Italian civilians, German prisoners. American equipment appeared decades ahead. Electrocardiographs, electric suction, rapid autoclaves, adjustable beds, simple efficiencies, multiplied survival. Then came the revelation that no amount of abundance could soften. In spring 1945, liberation footage from concentration camps was shown to German medical prisoners. Denial collapsed under evidence. Testimony, photographs, letters from home. They had served a system that perverted medicine into murder. American officers responded without vengeance. Medicine itself was not guilty. But it must never again serve ideology over healing. Denazification followed. Ethics courses replaced racial theory. Lieutenant Colonel Dorothy Whitman emphasized documentation, patient advocacy, responsibility. Technical skill without moral grounding was insufficient. Throughout captivity, American abundance continued to speak. Instruments were replaced at first where medications were discarded when expired. Germany had fought for resources. America manufactured them. Abundance, not ideology, won the war. Nursing practice challenged German identity. American nurses held autonomy. They questioned orders. They spoke up. Captain Helen Morrison explained the rules simply. Responsibility for patient outcomes overrides hierarchy. By 1945 and 1946, German nurses returned to a nation where 60% of hospitals lay destroyed. They carried American techniques and a transformed philosophy. By 1950, many German nursing schools were led by former prisoners. Blood banking systems mirrored American models. Antibiotic protocols followed American guidelines. The numbers remain. 371,683 German prisoners in the United States. Over 200 medical facilities employing German staff. More than 100,000 documented hours of medical education. Dozens of hospitals reorganized. Each nurse influenced dozens more. Each hospital treated thousands. In 1995, surviving nurses drafted a statement. Medicine corrupted by ideology becomes an instrument of death. Medicine grounded in science and compassion serves life. They arrived as prisoners. They left as witnesses. The 9 nurses who emerged from the cave near Cherbourg on July 2, 1944, did not just surrender. They encountered a system, not technology alone. Training, logistics, ethics, production. They didn't just lose a war. They lost an idea of the world. And in its place, they learned what medicine was meant to be. Healing without borders. Science without prejudice. Abundance in service of life.